I will use abbreviations such as no date and no page to hold the place. Some students will say, well, I didn't find a date. Well, you still have to hold that place for me. And you should download or print the resources for verification later. Too many students just kind of, well, I'll find this later. Later may not happen. You may go back to that site thinking I can find it and never find that source again. Use peer-reviewed scholarly sources and primary sources that have some relevant publication information. So you want to use the best sources when you're doing academic work, the best sources. Now the web address is now optional. Check with your instructor. Because the web address is optional, some instructors will say, I want that web address as yet. Other instructors will say, I'm going to follow the MLA new rules, and unless it's difficult to find, I don't need it. So check with your instructor and be sure which is the case for that instructor or publisher. We're going to add a period now after the access date. The library name used to be in there. We're not going to add that anymore. And we're still going to see on some of the online sites where they give us a citation suggestion. And that address is there for the library, or the name of the library, and we no longer need that. The name of database service is not required. EBSCOhost and ProQuest are database services. ProQuest is also a database, so we got to watch which way we're using it. And we're going to include the name of the database in italics. Okay, so we're going to show that. The in-text and parenthetical is all based on readability. We need to read through our essay quickly, see where something came from, be able to identify it, and move on. So it's all based on that. So I show in my work where I found this information. And that's going to lead my reader to the works cited, how I found this information, and the specifics. The reference specific works cited sources, and I'm going to mismatch the first part of the sources. If I have a source from the American Psychological Journal, I'm not going to cite by it. I'm going to cite by the author of that article, not the journal title. If I have 3 authors, I will name all 3. If I have 4, I get to use et al. But only if I have 4. Okay? I'm going to identify where things were found. No page numbers needed for one-page documents. And in most cases, no page number is going to be needed for online sites, online places. Now, the exception will be if I have a PDF file for online. Electronic sources with numbered paragraphs, I will use that numbered paragraph number in there as well. Okay. Do not use page numbers for the individual printers. A lot of students will take a look at that page 1 or 2 or 2 or 3 up there in the upper corner of your printout. That is never to be used as a reference page. Every printer will print slightly different from another printer. Okay. You're going to include the citation in the sentence for web publications without page numbers. That is the best and smoothest way to transition the stuff in there. And never abbreviate the author's name when the full name is given. So if this full name is Charlton Brown, you list him as Charlton Brown in your works cited, not C. Brown. That's a difference from APA. So if I have something in text, these might be some examples that I would do. But Anthony Hunt has another view. Anthony Hunt would appear in my works cited as my author of its source. Chan claims, again, Chan would be in my works cited as a source. And then I have a direct quote, and then I have a paragraph that I had in this one. So the paragraph was numbered where I could do that. And then the 9 grades of Mandarins were distinguished by the color of the button on the office, hat on the office. This is cited by the term. This is an encyclopedia, and encyclopedias and dictionaries are cited by the term, not by the name of the encyclopedia. Never by the name of the encyclopedia. So to match that, if those were my in-text citations for my essay, this would be my works cited page for those 3 sources. So they would be alphabetical order. So we start out with the Chan source. What we have is then in quotation marks, we have the title of the essay using upper lowercase capitalization. We follow that with the title of the journal in italics. Then it's followed by the volume number and then the issue. Notice that I don't have the abbreviations for volume or issue there. I simply put the volume number first, point, and then the issue number. When I have a volume issue, I will put my date now in parentheses. And then I will follow that date with a colon. And if I don't have a page, I'm going to use that abbreviation, no page. If I have a page, I will put it in. This came from the Project Muse web database, a web source, and then the date of access. So notice that I don't have to have now that long web address out there, because that Project Muse database will tell anyone else who's doing some research how to find this source. Anthony Hunt is the next one. Seeing the dyads, again, I start out with the article title in quotation marks. Notice that anything after a colon in my title gets capitalized. Then the title of the Journal of Modern Literature. Again, the volume and issue, the date, colon, and now here I have a very specific page number. This was a traditional print source. I pulled it right off the magazine shelf or the book and used the print source. So I'm going to use the print on there. And then Mandarin, that encyclopedia article that we used, it starts with the name of the encyclopedia. So notice that we're using in our citations in text what is in first in that works cited entry. First in the works cited entry. Now there's some different rules for capitalization out here in a lot of the different style manuals. So we need to talk about those. We're basically going to capitalize nouns, pronouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs.